Have you ever felt like your life has gone strangely quiet, as if everything familiar has stopped moving, but something unseen is shifting underneath? It's not failure, it's not emptiness. It's the pause before destiny exhales. There are moments when the universe seems to hold its breath, when the noise of the world fades, and all that remains is the faint pulse of your own soul whispering, "Something is changing." You can't name it yet, but you feel it. Old passions no longer spark. Your routines feel too small. Even the mirror looks different, as if it's reflecting someone you haven't fully met. This silence isn't the absence of life, it's the soil before the bloom, the unraveling before the rebirth, and according to Carl Jung, it's the sacred threshold every soul must cross before entering its most luminous stage. Because before the next version of you can emerge, the old one must dissolve. That's why the things you once loved now feel distant, why success feels hollow, why your spirit aches for something you can't yet describe. Your soul is whispering, it's time. Time to shed what was borrowed, time to meet what was hidden, time to awaken what has been quietly waiting within you all along. In this video, we'll uncover the 4 hidden signs that reveal when your soul is preparing you for its greatest transformation. The moment when your outer life finally begins to match your inner truth. But first, you must understand why this stillness feels so strange, why the universe sometimes dismantles your comfort before revealing your purpose. Because what feels like an ending may be the sacred beginning you've been praying for all along. There are days when you wake up with a strange heaviness, as if your body knows something your mind can't yet understand. You go through your routine, coffee, messages, noise, but underneath it all, there's a quiet hum, a pulse that doesn't belong to time. It's not sadness exactly, it's something older, deeper, the quiet ache of a soul that's beginning to stir. You start noticing small things you used to overlook, a song that plays at the exact moment you needed to hear its words, a sudden chill before a difficult conversation, the same dream repeating with symbols that make no logical sense but carry an emotion you can't ignore. You brush it off at first, coincidence, fatigue, imagination, but deep down you know better. Something is calling. These aren't random events. They're messages. The universe rarely speaks in plain language. It speaks through synchronicities, through feelings that make no sense to the rational mind, but feel completely right to the heart. Carl Jung called this the language of the unconscious. It's the way the deeper layers of the self reach the surface, through whispers, symbols, and sensations that slip through the cracks of our busy lives. You've felt it, haven't you? That sudden disconnection from things you used to chase. The way certain people drain your energy now, even if they never meant to. The restlessness that rises when you try to force yourself into old rhythms that no longer fit. It's as if life itself is closing the doors you once used to enter. You think something is wrong, but maybe, for the first time, everything is right, because the soul has its own timing. When it's ready to evolve, it begins to dismantle everything that keeps you asleep, the job that feels suffocating, the relationship that no longer mirrors your truth. Even your own thoughts start to rebel. You begin to question what once felt unquestionable. This is the ache before awakening. It's not punishment, it's preparation. The universe speaks through discomfort, through sudden exhaustion, through the loss of interest in what once defined you. You may feel like you're disappearing, but what's really happening is that you're being stripped of what isn't you. Some nights you'll feel it most, that electric stillness before sleep, when the world quiets and you sense something vast, moving just beyond the edges of awareness. You'll feel watched, but not in fear, in recognition. As if something ancient within you is waiting for you to finally listen. You might even notice it in your body. Strange warmth around the heart when you think of a dream you buried, a pressure in your chest when you lie to yourself, a sudden lightness when you tell the truth. These are not random sensations. They are signals, the soul's Morse code, reminding you that you are not just flesh and thought, but energy, memory, and light in motion. When your higher self wants your attention, it doesn't shout. It rearranges your reality. It slows things down. It removes what distracts. It makes you face silence until silence becomes sacred. And in that silence, you start to remember what you forgot. That your life has always been trying to communicate with you. Through pain, through patterns, through people who mirrored your wounds and your light at once. So when everything starts to feel strange, when time bends, coincidences multiply, and your emotions rise without reason, ask yourself, is this chaos or is this communication? Because sometimes the most confusing moments in your life are the ones where the universe is speaking the loudest. And when you finally understand why it speaks this way, through dreams, shadows, and hidden symbols, everything begins to shift. The question is, are you ready to learn the true language of your soul? The first great sign that your soul is preparing you for its best stage is emptiness, the sacred void that appears when everything you once trusted begins to lose its shape. It arrives quietly, almost invisibly. One day you wake up and realize that the things that used to give you joy now feel meaningless. The ambitions that once fueled you leave you strangely cold. You look around your life and wonder, why does nothing fit anymore? It feels like loss, but it's not. It's initiation. Every ancient tradition spoke of this moment. The Buddhists called it shunyata, the divine emptiness. The Christian mystics described it as the dark night of the soul. Jung saw it as the first step of individuation, when the false self begins to dissolve so the authentic self can finally breathe. But because modern life teaches us to fear silence, we mistake this sacred emptiness for depression, failure, or confusion. We rush to fill it with noise, with distraction, with anything that makes us forget how wide the inner space has become. Yet this void isn't a punishment, it's an invitation. Imagine a forest after a great fire. Everything seems destroyed, yet under the ashes, the soil is richer than ever before. The same is happening within you. The universe burns away what is dead, so that what is divine can take root. This is the first secret. The emptiness you fear is not your enemy. It's your soul clearing the ground for new creation. Carl Jung wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. What feels like chaos is your old identity unraveling. The career that once defined you, the relationships that gave you a sense of worth, even your ideas of spirituality, they all begin to fade because they were never the destination, they were the disguise. When you enter this stage, your mind will resist. It will whisper, you're lost, you're behind, you've failed. But that voice is not your soul. It's the echo of your conditioning, the part of you built on expectations, approval, and fear. Jung called it the persona, the mask you learn to wear to survive in a world that values performance over presence. And when the mask begins to crumble, you finally face the truth. You were never meant to play a role. You were meant to embody your essence. This moment of internal disorientation is the threshold between your old story and your new one. The emptiness you feel is the universe pressing reset on your inner life. Every silence, every pause, every unanswered prayer, it's the space where the divine is writing something new. Think about it. The seed must disappear into darkness before it can sprout. The caterpillar must dissolve inside the cocoon before it can fly. And so must you. But the human mind fears dissolution. It wants control, structure, clarity. Yet spiritual awakening doesn't come with instructions. It comes with surrender. You may find yourself withdrawing from people, craving solitude, or feeling detached from old routines. You may cry for no reason or wake in the middle of the night with a heavy, unexplainable awareness. These are not malfunctions. They are milestones. The silence in your life is not the absence of meaning. It is meaning in its purest form. And when you finally stop running from it, when you sit in the stillness long enough to feel its rhythm, you begin to notice something miraculous. The silence is alive. It breathes. It speaks. It reorganizes you from within. This is how the universe prepares a soul for transformation, not through noise, but through nothingness. The first secret is not to escape the void, but to trust it, because the void is not empty. It's full of instructions your logical mind cannot yet read. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine all the noise of your life dissolving, the voices, the plans, the endless striving. What remains is pure awareness. That awareness is you, the real you, not the version that seeks validation, but the consciousness that watches everything rise and fall and yet remains untouched. That's where your rebirth begins. So if your world feels quiet, uncertain, or stripped bare, don't rush to fill it. Stay. Breathe. Listen, because in that silence, your higher self is whispering the map to the next stage of your life. It's easy to miss it if you're still clinging to noise, but when you finally let the emptiness speak, you realize it was never emptiness at all. It was preparation, purification, promise. You are not losing yourself. You're shedding everything that was never truly yours. If these words resonate with you, if you felt this sacred quiet rising in your life, take a moment to honor it. And if you wish to walk this path of awakening with others who hear the same call, join our community by liking this video and subscribing. Not for the algorithm, but for alignment. Each gesture you make here helps expand this circle of seekers, souls awakening together to something greater, because once you understand the purpose of the void, you'll begin to see that even your darkest nights were never random. They were the first light of dawn disguised as shadow. But before that dawn fully breaks, there's another sign, one even more mysterious, that reveals when your soul is stepping beyond the mask and into its true power. I still remember the morning when everything began to fall apart. The world outside looked the same, sunlight pouring through the curtains, the faint hum of traffic, the smell of coffee in the air. But inside, something had cracked. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, a subtle awareness that the life I'd built no longer felt like mine. I had the job, the apartment, the plans, the version of success everyone said would make me whole. But one day, as I sat in front of my computer, staring at numbers and tasks that once gave me a sense of control, I felt a strange stillness rise from within. It was as if the air thickened, time slowed, and a question surfaced that I couldn't ignore. Is this really it? At first I tried to outrun it. I filled my schedule with meetings, conversations, noise. But no matter how loud life got, the silence inside me grew louder. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with a tightness in my chest and tears I couldn't explain. I began to notice patterns, the same symbols appearing in dreams, the same words echoing through strangers, the same pull towards solitude. It was like being haunted by something sacred. One evening, walking home under a grey sky, I stopped by a small park I'd passed 1,000 times before, but never entered. Something in me, a whisper maybe, told me to sit down. The wind was cold, the trees were bare, and for the first time in years, I didn't reach for my phone. I just sat there watching the world breathe. That's when I felt it. A weight in my chest broke open, and I began to cry. Not from sadness, but from recognition. The kind of tears that rise when truth finally touches the surface. In that quiet park, surrounded by fallen leaves and fading light, I realized what had been happening. Life wasn't punishing me. It was inviting me. I wasn't losing my purpose. I was being freed from a version of myself that had outlived its time. Every dream that had collapsed, every door that had closed, every strange silence. It all made sense. I had been mistaking my breakdown for failure when, in truth, it was initiation. That night, I walked home differently, slower, softer. The city lights didn't look the same. They shimmered like signals. Every sound, every shadow felt alive. It was as if reality itself had tilted, revealing a layer I'd never noticed before. Over the next weeks, things began to shift. I started journaling, not to fix anything, but to listen. My words stopped coming from my head and began to flow from somewhere deeper, a place both familiar and ancient. I began to remember dreams I had as a child, fragments of moments when I felt close to something divine. I realized those memories weren't random. They were messages, breadcrumbs left by the soul to guide me back home. And then came the moment I'll never forget. One morning, I walked into my office, turned on the computer, and looked at the projects lined up for the day. But something inside whispered, "This chapter is over." It wasn't fear. It wasn't rebellion. It was peace. Deep, grounded, absolute peace. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and resigned. That decision terrified everyone around me. Friends called it reckless. Family called it uncertain. But for the first time, uncertainty felt sacred. I had no plan, no safety net, only faith that the same force that had dismantled my old life would build something more truthful in its place. And it did. In the months that followed, I began living with an attention I'd never known before. I'd notice how the wind seemed to carry whispers when I prayed, how strangers would appear at the exact moment I needed guidance, how coincidences became conversations with something greater. It wasn't magic, it was alignment. I understood then what Jung meant when he said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." The world outside had collapsed, but inside, I was finally alive. I began to see signs everywhere. Feathers on my doorstep, lights flickering when I spoke aloud my fears, recurring dreams where I stood at a river I could never cross. One morning, in meditation, I finally did. I saw myself stepping into the water, not sinking but floating, carried by a current I didn't control, but completely trusted. When I opened my eyes, I knew the river was life itself, and I had finally stopped resisting its flow. That realization changed everything. The emptiness turned into peace, the fear turned into reverence, the silence became the most honest companion I'd ever known. But what touched me most wasn't the signs. It was the feeling that I was no longer alone in them. That behind every coincidence, every strange pull of destiny, there was a presence guiding, watching, teaching. A presence that had always been there, waiting for me to slow down enough to hear it. Maybe you've felt it too, in the quiet between your thoughts, in a dream that refused to leave you, in a sudden emotion you couldn't name. Maybe your soul has been whispering, gently asking, "Are you ready to listen?" Because once you do, everything begins to rearrange itself around that awareness. The outer world becomes a mirror for your inner growth, and life stops happening to you. It begins happening through you. If you've ever had a moment like this, a dream that guided you, a sign that found you at the right time, an emptiness that became a doorway, share it below. Tell your story. I read them all. And in the next video, I may speak your name and your experience as a light for others who walk the same path. Because when one soul awakens, it silently gives permission for many others to do the same. And somewhere, beyond the edges of that awakening, there's something even deeper waiting to be revealed. Something that explains why these signs come to us when they do, and how they carry a message written by the soul itself. The second great sign that your soul is entering its most luminous stage is the mirror effect, when life begins to reflect you back to yourself in ways that can no longer be ignored. It often starts subtly. You keep meeting the same kind of people, facing the same frustrations, or repeating the same emotional loops, no matter how much you try to change your circumstances. Different faces, different settings, but the same energy. You might ask, why does this keep happening to me? But Jung would gently correct that question. He'd say, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you, because it's coming from you. He called it projection, one of the most misunderstood spiritual mechanisms of the psyche. What you reject within yourself doesn't vanish. It simply takes shape in the world around you. The people who irritate you, the situations that trigger you, the events that seem unfair, they are mirrors showing you where your soul is asking for healing. That's the second secret. Your outer world is your inner world in disguise. If your life feels repetitive, it's because the lesson hasn't been fully integrated. The soul doesn't punish, it teaches. It keeps sending you the same patterns wrapped in different bodies and experiences until you stop reacting and start recognizing. Every argument, every disappointment, every unexpected delay. It's not random. It's feedback, a sacred reflection designed to bring the unconscious into awareness. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This means that the moment you stop blaming and start observing, the entire script of your life begins to change. Because the external world is only ever a projection of your internal vibration, the emotional field you carry. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and shouting, "Smile," expecting your reflection to change first. It never will. The reflection only shifts when you do. That's how spiritual growth works. Reality isn't a stage, it's a reflection. And when you shift what's within, the entire scene rearranges itself without resistance. So how do you begin to recognize this mirror in your own life? How can you use it as a tool instead of feeling trapped by it? Here's a simple yet powerful practice, one that Jungian therapists, mystics, and spiritual teachers all point toward in different forms. The technique, the mirror pause. The next time something or someone triggers you, a criticism, a delay, a moment of frustration, instead of reacting, pause for just 10 seconds. Breathe deeply and ask yourself silently, what part of me is being reflected right now? Don't analyze, just feel. Maybe it's your need to be seen. Maybe it's the fear of being judged. Maybe it's the old wound of feeling powerless. Whatever arises, don't fight it. Notice it. Name it. Breathe through it. Then say quietly, even if only in your mind, "I see you. You are allowed to exist." This small act changes everything, because awareness dissolves projection. When you bring light to what was hidden, it no longer needs to appear as drama in your external world. You'll begin to notice, almost immediately, that the situations which once triggered you start losing their power. The same people may behave the same way, but something in you has shifted. And because your energy has changed, the mirror reflects something new. This is how you reclaim authorship of your reality. Not by controlling everything outside of you, but by mastering the inner state that generates your experiences. Try it for just 1 week. Watch what happens when you meet every irritation with curiosity instead of defense. Life starts revealing its deeper symmetry, a kind of divine choreography where even the challenges are invitations to wholeness. The beauty of this second secret is that it transforms everyday life into a sacred dialogue with your soul. Suddenly, the world is not against you, it's communicating with you. Every coincidence, every conflict, every emotion becomes a symbol, a part of your own consciousness calling for integration. You realize that awakening isn't about escaping the world, it's about decoding it. And when you do, the same life that once felt heavy begins to shine with meaning. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start whispering, "What is this trying to show me?" That simple shift in perception is one of the most powerful spiritual technologies you will ever use, because once you learn to interpret life as a mirror, the universe stops feeling random. Every event becomes revelation, every person becomes a teacher, every obstacle becomes an opening. And with time, you begin to sense that there's an even deeper pattern, something hidden behind all the reflections, a signal beneath the surface, a third, almost mystical sign that reveals itself only when you've learned to see through the mirror itself. Few ever reach it, but when they do, their entire sense of reality changes forever. That's where we're heading next, into the quiet center of the soul, where reflection ends and revelation begins. Before we step into that sacred space, take a moment to breathe and reflect. Who in your life right now is mirroring something you've been avoiding within yourself? Write it down. Observe it. Let it teach you. And if this message has opened something in you, if you feel called to continue awakening with others who walk this same path, subscribe and join our growing community of seekers. Together, we'll keep unveiling the hidden language of the soul, one secret at a time. Because beyond this mirror, there lies a truth so profound, most people never see it until everything else falls away. There is a moment in every true awakening when the mirror dissolves, when life stops simply reflecting you and begins merging with you. That is the third and deepest sign, oneness. The moment you realize that everything happening out there is not separate from what lives in here. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It comes like a sunrise, slow and golden, until you can no longer tell where the light ends and you begin. You wake one morning and notice how the world feels alive, the trees breathing with you, the wind finishing your sentences, the silence between sounds vibrating like a pulse you somehow recognize as your own. This is the revelation Jung called the self, the divine center that connects every fragment of your existence. The mystics named it Christ consciousness, the point where the human heart and the eternal mind meet in perfect balance. Physicists speak of it in another language, the quantum field, where everything that exists is entangled in a single awareness. Different words, one truth. When you reach this threshold, you begin to sense that your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are not confined to your mind. They ripple outward, shaping the fabric of reality itself. Every prayer becomes vibration. Every act of kindness, a force that bends the invisible. Every moment of gratitude rewires the field around you, and suddenly, what once felt like coincidence begins to feel like communion. You think of someone, and they call. You speak a desire softly, and the universe answers not with magic, but with alignment. You are no longer chasing life. Life is responding to your frequency. This is not imagination, it's resonance. You have moved beyond reflection into creation. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and who you truly are is not small. You are not the noise of your fears or the shape of your past. You are consciousness wearing a body, infinity learning to speak through a single voice." It's in this understanding that the greatest paradox of awakening reveals itself. You are the dreamer and the dream, the observer and the observed, the prayer and the answer. At first, this realization can feel overwhelming, almost electric. You may sense waves of emotion moving through you for no reason. You may cry at the sight of sunlight through a window or feel deep peace in the middle of chaos. You are not becoming sentimental. You are tuning into the pulse of creation itself. When this awakening begins, the ego trembles. It cannot survive in a world where everything is connected, where control gives way to communion. But the soul rejoices. Because this is the moment it has been waiting for, the reunion, the homecoming. In ancient Christian mysticism, this was called theosis. the process of becoming one with the divine, not through escape from the human experience, but through the sanctification of it. In quantum language, it's coherence, the state in which all parts of a system vibrate in harmony, amplifying their shared power. It is the same truth seen from two horizons. When your inner frequency matches divine order, creation itself bends to meet you. This is the spiritual climax, the moment when the veil thins and you finally understand that God was never far away. God was never outside. God has always been the silence beneath your heartbeat, the intelligence breathing you into being, the love that never left. And when you touch that awareness, even for a second, everything changes. Fear loses its authority. Time slows down. Your purpose becomes clear, not as a task, but as a vibration, to live as a bridge between heaven and earth. You begin to act differently without effort. You speak more gently, you forgive more easily, you listen more deeply, because you've tasted what cannot be untasted, the knowing that every soul you meet is another expression of the same infinite light. That is the hidden meaning of Christ's words. The kingdom of God is within you. Not a metaphor, a blueprint. When you start living from this truth, your energy becomes medicine. People feel it when you enter a room, a calm that softens them, a presence that reminds them of home. You don't have to preach, you embody. And in that embodiment, your life becomes prayer, not spoken, but lived. If this message resonates with you, if you felt the pull of this sacred remembering, take a moment now to breathe and to give back through a simple gesture. Like this video and subscribe to this channel. Not because we seek numbers or gain. This work is not about profit. It's a labor of love, a way to hold space for souls who are awakening just like you. Each time you join, you strengthen a field of light, a living community of seekers who believe that consciousness can heal the world. And as this field expands, something extraordinary begins to happen. Synchronicities multiply, intuition sharpens, and hearts across the world start beating in the same rhythm. That rhythm, that shared vibration, is the heartbeat of the new humanity rising. But there is one final sign, one last threshold that few are willing to cross. It is the moment when the soul, having remembered its unity, must now embody it fully in the physical world, where love becomes action and light becomes legacy. It's the most beautiful and demanding revelation of all. Because it's no longer about seeing the divine, it's about becoming it. There comes a point after all the unraveling, the silence, the mirrors, and the revelations, when you finally understand nothing in your journey was ever random. Every heartbreak, every delay, every sleepless night had a purpose so sacred that only time and awakening could reveal it. The pain that once felt unbearable was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to dismantle everything that kept you from remembering who you truly are. The emptiness that frightened you was not punishment. It was preparation. The loneliness that once hollowed your chest was actually the clearing of space for something far greater. Presence. All those strange signs that crossed your path, the dreams, the coincidences, the sudden knowing, they were not illusions. They were the handwriting of the divine across the pages of your life, whispering, "You are not alone. You never were." The truth is, every soul watching this right now is part of a greater symphony, a collective awakening moving through humanity like a rising tide. Each time one of us remembers, the entire ocean lifts. And that's what's happening now. A quiet revolution of consciousness, one heart at a time. You are not just healing your story, you are healing the lineage that came before you and the generations that will come after. When you forgive, you free thousands. When you choose compassion, you repair the invisible threads of the world. When you choose faith, you alter the vibration of existence itself. Maybe this video found you at a crossroads, standing between the life you've outgrown and the one you can feel faintly calling your name. If that's true, let this be your sign. You are ready. ready to step into a life that doesn't just look successful, but feels sacred. Take one breath right now. Close your eyes and whisper to yourself, I am not behind, I am becoming, because that's what you are, becoming, unfolding, returning to the light you were born from. And when you look back someday, you'll see that this was the turning point, the moment you stopped running from yourself and started walking toward your truth. So let this message echo within you. The best stage of your life doesn't begin when everything outside is perfect. It begins when you remember that perfection was never the goal. Presence was. It begins when you live each day as if the divine were looking through your eyes, loving through your hands, speaking through your voice. Because it is. That's what it means to awaken, not to escape this world, but to illuminate it from within. And if this message stirred something in you, if you felt seen, understood, or quietly changed by these words, then take one simple action right now, one that turns this moment of inspiration into connection. Leave a comment below with your name and city. Tell me where you're watching from, and in the next video, I'll send a warm greeting and a special blessing your way. Because this community isn't just an audience, it's a circle of souls awakening together. If this journey has touched your spirit, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you imagine, not for fame, but for purpose. Every like, every comment, every new member strengthens this field of light we're building, a community of seekers who remind the world that love is still the strongest frequency in the universe. And as you step back into your life after this, remember, the signs were never meant to confuse you. They were meant to call you home. Home to your soul, home to your purpose, home to the light that has always lived quietly behind your eyes. Because this, right now, right here, isn't the end. It's the beginning of something extraordinary that's just starting to awaken inside you. And beyond this moment lies the revelation you were born to find.